Okay, let's start this from the beginning like most good stories start. I was born in Rochester, New York. Everybody in my family was born in Cuba, a small island just 90 miles from where I'm sitting right now, except for me. I was born in America, which makes me a full-blooded American. Yeah, I was waiting for clapping or something. My family braved 20-foot tall waves, 100-mile-per-hour winds on a small raft made of car parts and capybara skin, leaving them nothing but a pile of burnt skin and gums when they washed ashore with my brother and sister clenching onto them like lemurs. Okay, now that's a complete lie, but we'll get to that in a minute. I spill my drink, I got the juice. We gon' fill up all these cups, yeah. We gon' drown them out. She told me never bet on luck. I fill a purse, and then we cut it up. Spent the day under the sun, suffocating to the beat. It was written when I wrote this. Okay, so I was born in Rochester, New York. My parents lived in Brockport, and it's like a cheaper area. And I was born in like a nicer area. So when I tell people, I'm like, I was born in Rochester, they're always like, oh, that's nice. Every time I've ever said like, I was born in Brockport, they're always just like, oh. You know, it's like a, wait, he's gotta be a part of everything, bro. He's a fucking ham. And then we came to Florida when I was like 2. But yeah, I left New York when I was 2, I guess, because there was like a big stock market type crash, or stock market crash, and my dad like gave his money to a bunch of, someone who like fucked it up for him basically. My mom's like so afraid of the stock market. Every time I've told her like I'm like buying crypto and shit, and she's just like freaked out. She's like, it's all gonna go, all your money's gonna go. So it's funny, every time people would be like, did you come here on a raft or something like that, you know? I would always just be like, no, my parents came on a fucking boat, and it was like a big boat, and it was a ship. I shouldn't call it a boat, but my parents came on a fucking ship, and when they got here, they were straight up janitors, and they worked like some shitty ass jobs, and they learned, my mom at least, I don't know how, my dad must have already known English. My mom learned English off of like listening to soap operas, like watching soap operas and stuff, and just like kind of figuring it out, I guess. Yeah, they're the epitome of like the American dream, because they just built that shit from nothing. My dad became like such a successful accountant for like John Hancock, and like got all this shit, and we were doing well before like that stock market crash. Sorry, I'm playing guitar in my head, you know what I'm saying, even though I don't play guitar. You know? Yeah. I was born in Caracas, Venezuela, in a little city called Chacao. Okay. What was that like? It was pretty cool. My parents were like about middle class, so they actually had really rich parents themselves, so my grandparents had a lot of money at that time. So I could say that during my time in Venezuela, they definitely made my childhood like a little bit seamless for the most part. I did see some messed up stuff outside the balcony, like as a kid, every now and then. I won't go into detail yet, maybe another time. But when I was about 4 or 5, I think, my parents decided to move us up north into Miami-Dade, and we lived in Kendall for a little while. And that was actually pretty seamless too. I went to just, a couple regular elementary schools. Venezuela and Miami were both pretty memorable. It was just like a pretty normal suburban-esque childhood, made a couple friends here and there. And then when I turned 8, my parents decided that they didn't really love Miami. So they decided to move to Broward. And we moved into a little city called Davie. A lot of country and cowboy stuff, a lot of suburbs, and a lot of like acre homes. We came to Florida when I was like 2, and then we moved to Miramar, some regular ass neighborhood. I guess we were like middle class, you know what I mean? Maybe even like, I don't remember what life was like then. We might even have been poor. I was too young to remember. I was like pretending to know math and shit, you know what I'm saying? Like I was like super young, just riding around on little trikes and stuff. Oh yeah, I had the Ninja Turtle bike that I used to ride around my house, and like I still like remember that because it was like all green, super nice, like little BMX bike with training wheels, and I would just dip around like corners. We didn't have a big house, but bro, I was like a little track star. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? And then, and then after that we moved to Davie. And Davie's like cowboy country. And so like, we moved out to Davie in some big ass house. And that was really nice. I like learned how to fish and shit. I remember I was fishing. Yeah, I do remember fishing a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. When you're in Davie, you like fish. Like everybody's like, "What are you gonna do?" You try to catch bass. You know what I mean? That's what I did when I was a kid. The first fish I ever caught, I didn't reel it in. I like just ran with it, and then like it popped out because I was just running with the reel. You know, like as far as I could until it popped out of the water. I was like young. I was probably like 9 or something. I was a fucking idiot, is what I was. Yeah, so I was living the good life for a couple years. Parents got divorced, and then it was like just normal fucking. Not like struggling. My mom always kept the fridge full, always kept me like living good, but at the same time, like I could tell she was working like 2 jobs, you know, so I knew. I was like, this isn't normal. Like I had nights by myself and shit. And so yeah, so that was crazy. Middle school wasn't bad, but people wanted to fight all the time. I remember that shit. I feel like there was like a fight every day. I didn't really get in too many fights, but I remember I got into a couple just like stupid ass fights. Like I remember we were playing football, like touch football, and for some reason I like decided like to tackle the kid, and he was like not a friend, but I knew him. And then I got in trouble because like he was gonna fight me after that, and then we kind of squared up, and the teacher came, and then we were in IS together, and he was just like, I remember he was just like, what the fuck? Why'd you do that? And I was like, I don't know, man. We're in middle school. This is the fucking jungle, bro. We're in middle school. Fuck you. No rules here. But yeah, I was just like, I was kind of an asshole. Like when it came to like random shit like that, you know, you get your little young angst out. School with the fucking security guards though were ridiculous. Like security guards throughout middle school and high school were just the worst people ever. They were always like out to get me. In middle school, not so much, but middle school and high school, they fucking hated me.
It's funny because like as a kid, before I moved to Davie and before I moved to Miami, like my parents made the relationship with our family seem so like, you know, good. But then as you get older, you start hearing about all the drama and all the stuff that happens between, you know, aunts and uncles, and to the point where it's like, wow, that's crazy. Like I can't believe I used to think everything was so perfect when it really wasn't at all.
That's what
It was relatively mixed in school. I'd say it was a pretty blended group of people as far as ethnicity and race and stuff too. It wasn't too crazy, but yeah, there was definitely a lot of ignorance like out there. I remember one time, I think there was some trouble on the bus, and they thought it was me, but it wasn't. But then one of the security guards, the big burly one that you talked about earlier, he came out and he started calling me an Afghan and a terrorist. And then some dude came up from the side, like in front of like the whole bus, and then he's pointed out like my unibrow at the time, because you know I'm Hispanic, so I have a good amount of facial hair. And he's like, "Look at his unibrow, everyone!" And everyone just started laughing and stuff, and it was pretty bad, but you know, whatever. It was no huge deal at the end of the day. Now that I look back at it, like yeah, my feelings were hurt then, but it's like whatever. I brushed it off pretty quickly for the most part. Even I got asked the raft question, dude. I'm not even Cuban. Yeah, a lot of people, oh, did you come on a boat? Whenever I told them I'd come on a plane, they'd be like, oh, wow, you came on a plane. They'd be so surprised, yeah.
Yeah, like it's an accomplishment.
Right, exactly.
Oh, dude, you're one of us. School was crazy. I fucking always dealt with people, like through middle school and high school, always talking to me about like, I guess when it would come up that I was Spanish, they would always happen to just bring up like, oh, did you come on a raft? Oh, did you come on a raft? Like it was just always the same thing. Like never, it wasn't that original.
Stereotype.
Yeah, it was never like, oh, how'd your parents get here or whatever. It was just like, oh, where are you from? Oh, I'm Cuban. And it'd be like, oh, you came on a raft? It's like, it's just crazy. So I always dealt with that. It always gave me like thick skin and shit. So, it was a blessing and a curse, you know, because like sometimes I feel like I'm too nice to where people can say shit to me, and I kind of just I'm used to just like brushing things off. Yeah, just being ignorant or thinking that it's funny or something, and they say something like that, and I'm just so used to it that like I immediately like kind of laugh, and like I'm quick to say something right after. Like I'm just like, haha, no, not at all, and then just like, you know, explain to them that I didn't, and then or I just ignore it or whatever. But it's never failed. It's like friends and like people's family members, I guess extended family kind of thing, you know what I mean? Like it's like in-laws. You know, I've heard it from people that were very like I've heard it from people that are super intelligent and understand that that's not okay to say, but yet they like couldn't help themselves. It was almost like
They really wanted to know if you came on the right.
yeah, maybe it was a legitimate question, and if it was, you know, maybe I'm the asshole for assuming. Yeah, I mean, it is a common thing, and I understand that. It's just so funny, like in how you said it's like it's like such a quick thing. It's like oh, actually, and there's another one. It wasn't always just do you come on a raft. For some reason, it was like an insult to say like, oh, you're Mexican, right? So like I would be like, oh, I'm Cuban. They'd be like, oh, no, you're not. You're Mexican. Like that's funny, but you're Mexican. You don't have to like make that up. And I'm like, at first I didn't understand it. I would just be like, no, dude, no, I'm Cuban. Like I would literally think that like they were just being serious. And then I was like, oh, you're a fucking asshole. And I got that a lot. Even like my ex-girlfriend would say shit like that, like joking around, being like, oh, like she wouldn't say it in front of people, but she would definitely like just say shit like that. I'm like, dude, it's not funny. Like, I don't know. And so it's crazy how like easily people can say those things and how they might not realize that like how fucked up it is because it's just like a funny joke that they're used to hearing and saying and stuff. It's pretty wild.
But then that's when I started getting into like punk rock and shit. So like I got too cool to like care about any of that stuff. Yeah.
That's true.
So it was like whatever. I was just skateboarding and putting my middle finger up to anyone, you know.
Yeah.
7th and 8th grade was like when I went through that little like change up when I stopped giving a fuck, basically, like for a while, at least like to a lot of like outside people. I would give a fuck about like my group of friends and stuff. I was still kind of like, you know.
Of course,
Obviously.
Yeah.
I wasn't like a crazy bad kid, but like, you know, I wasn't really perfect either. So I noticed that in high school, no one ever really fucked with me for some reason. I don't know if it like I had a mean face or what, but pretty much except for this one time where I was being like a douchebag at one point. And then I got into wrestling, and maybe that's why, who knows, maybe people knew I was a wrestler or whatever, so they didn't want to fuck with me. But that's pretty much what I focused like most of my high school on, was wrestling.
That's right, yeah, you were heavy into wrestling.
Yeah, and then I did try in school somewhat, but I was super tired from the wrestling, obviously, because I didn't know shit about nutrition then like I do now. So, you know, my diet wasn't the healthiest, but you know, I was still cutting weight and stuff, so it was like kind of not the healthiest, but it still got me into like really good shape, like some of the best shape I've been in my life. Another thing I spent a lot of time on was, you know, being like a music nerd. You know, the whole being a punk fan evolved into like a huge plethora of like subgenres and like metal and like you know, hardcore and stuff like that I started getting really into.
Or making beats or anything, right?
No, I really wanted to be in a band, but instead of being in a band, a bunch of our friends were in bands. You know, you remember those days, I'm sure. We hung out with some of the same kids every now and then. So instead of being in a band, I would just like kind of like hang out with them at their shows, and like, you know, it was like a whole phase of my like high school life was going to shows. And so we would go to like the Alley in Miami and catch some crazy hardcore shows and shit. It was fun, man. Some of my favorite times for sure. I remember one time I got in really big trouble for getting drunk in some neighborhood, and like the cops took me home at one point because everyone got caught. And I was supposed to go to this, I think He Is Legend and From First to Last show, and then like maybe a couple other bands that I don't remember exactly. But I remember my mom was like, you can't go to this because, you know, you can't just be coming home drunk. Like, you know, you can't just be getting brought home drunk by the cops. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
You're not going to the show tomorrow. And I was like, pfft. Literally walked to their house at one point when my mom wasn't looking, and just literally just grabbed all my shit and started walking to their house. And I walked there, and their mom like took us. And then I guess my mom realized I left at one point. And like their mom was so cool that like she saw my mom at the gas station we stopped at first. She's like, Rigo, hide, your mom's here, hide. So like her and like my two friends were like hiding me in like the back seat, and like they put like a blanket on me.
That's fucking crazy. Yeah.
So I went to the show, and at first it was awesome. I was able to see, you know, a few songs. You know, I got in the pit. I thought I was like, you know, free. I was like, yes, I made it. And then before you know it, like somebody pulls my shoulder, and I look back, and it's my freaking mom, dude.
Dude, your mom's here.
Yeah, it was one of those moments.
That's fucking crazy.
So she came with one of like one of my childhood friends. I think my dad was busy doing something, so she came with someone else, and they fucking escorted me out of the show, man. I was pissed.
That's funny as fuck.
Yeah.
Like you were saying, like, nobody really fucked with me. I didn't really have, like, issues with anybody. There was not too much drama that went on or anything like that. I was just, like, I kind of just brought a guitar to school, an acoustic guitar, and I was just, like, the emo kid in the stairwell who, like, played guitar and, you know, hung out with, like, the other fucking... They weren't like the punk kids, they were more like the emo kids, because I feel like we were all like writing poetry and fucking doing lame shit.
Fucking nerds.
Yeah, we were just like not, like, it was funny though, I hung out with like a little bit of everybody, you know, it's like, I hung out with like the rednecks, I hung out with the, like some of the gangster kids, or like the more, like the kids that would have been fucking rapping, you know. I hung out with a bunch of people. I needed water, this is gonna be tough. I feel like I have a baby. I have a fucking baby, bro. Look at this thing. So yeah, my mom was super strict and she wouldn't let me do shit, so I'd always go to my friend's house for the weekend and like I would hang out with him, and that's how I smoked weed for the first time, and it was intense, man. We smoked someone's roach, or his mom's roach out of the ashtray, and then like that same night his friend got us like a half ounce or something, or like a quarter. It was like such a, you know, it was my first time seeing weed like that. I was like, oh my God. And we smoked so much of it. But I remember smoking for like a good 20 minutes. Like, you know, like we smoked 2 bowls or something and I was not inhaling. So I wasn't getting high at all. And then he like showed me, he's just like, dude, you're not doing it right. And I took my first hit and I was like, oh shit. Yeah, it was so funny.
Broward living on my brethren, we gon' heat it up. Eating dinner on my homies, we gon' split it up. Woke up living, all I said was that's what's up. I'll keep going, no I can't give up, never bet on luck. Broward living on my brethren, we gon' heat it up.